Everyone, I wanted to do a video on if you can use one of these Presto Precise, I guess they're technically digital pressure canners. If you can use that to sterilize grain spawn and substrate. This in particular is a master's mix block, which is what I typically use. But yeah, let me just give you a quick background on this. Like I said, this is not technically a pressure cooker, it's a pressure canner. You can see it gets the setting there. This is super convenient because you just hit the start button, you scroll over to 180 minutes, insert your jars. If you hold this, you jump on over to heating up. It'll heat up on its own, and then at that point you throw your, I guess your regulator on top, hit the start button, and then it does the rest for you. So super easy, but the question is, will this sterilize our grain spawn? And I'm going to tell you all my experience. So originally I was doing quart jars, so you could put 7 quart jars of grain in here, and I never really experienced any contamination. What I would do is I would run it though a little bit longer for like 2.5 upwards of 3 hours, because the thing with these digital pressure canners is they don't get to 15 and hold it. So technically it regulates based off of temperature. I think it stays between 240 and 250 degrees, which is roughly 10 to 15 psi. And as I've read, I think they stay closer, or on the lower end, probably 11 to 13 psi. So you're not getting quite as good of a job at sterilizing our grain and substrate, because it's not getting as hot. And that, 6 degrees difference plays a huge part. So like I said, when I was running these, I would run them a little bit longer than your hour and a half. When I would have grain in my jars, I'd do 7 of them. Never really had too much contamination with those. I switched to these 3.5 pound bags of grain spawn, and I would do 3 of these in there for 180 minutes. And I didn't have a ton of contamination. I had a little bit more. And then as I started to pack more of these in, I would do a couple layers. So I'd do anywhere from 4 to 6. That's when I started seeing, a week and a half in or so, I'd see green spots. I'd have green mold or other contaminants getting in. And I realized it's because it's not quite doing the job in that maximum of 180 minutes of sterilizing. So I would say, if you're planning on using this, don't overload it with, 4 to 6 3.5 pound bags of grain spawn. Otherwise, you're probably going to get some contamination. It gets too stacked in there. It's not hot enough to get them to temperature and sterilize consistently. Now, when I was doing that, I was still getting, I was getting probably 20%, 30% contamination at times. So definitely dropped off. Now, if you're here wondering about your substrate blocks, you can actually run 3 or 4 of these blocks in this container for 180 minutes. And I actually never experienced any type of contamination with that. I think this is a little bit more forgiving. A lot of times your soy hulls and sawdust does not have as much contaminants on them as your grain does. And then even with that, your grain, it's so nutritious that if there's anything in there, it's gonna start growing like crazy. Obviously, when you're sending your grain to substrate, you'll have a lot more contact points for your mycelium to really kind of take over that block and colonize it much quicker than the other way around. So if you're doing a small scale operation and you're just going to be using jars and you're going to be doing some substrate blocks, I don't see any reason why this would not work for you. Is it the best option for you? Probably not. There's nothing like your traditional pressure cooker that gets to 15 psi consistently, and then you can adjust how long you actually run things, depending on how much you pack it in. They have, I think, the All-American 50X, which is an electric pressure cooker. That would probably be a better investment than the Presto Precise. And you can actually put, I think, 14 jars in that one versus 7 in this one. So all that to say, if you're making an investment, I don't think I would recommend this. I got this from a thrift store for like $30. That was a steal. But this thing's typically $450, something like that. I would rather spend a little bit more if you're going for an electric pressure cooker and get an All-American or a couple of the others out there that are recommended for mushroom growing. But yeah, overall, as long as you keep it small scale, it shouldn't be too much of a liability. But let me know what y'all think. Do any of y'all have this? Have y'all ever run anything like this? A digital pressure canner to sterilize your substrate or your grain? What was y'all's success rate like? Let me know what y'all did, how long you ran it for. And yeah, thanks for watching. I hope this video helps y'all out.